So, as you guys noticed when I came in, I'm kind of limping around here. I jumped off and did the gym membership. We moved, recently, so I didn't have a gym to go to.
I thought you were just walking in here doing a T-Rex.
Yeah, I'm doing a little. I can't fall over. I'll never get up to. No, I ended up joining a gym, so I'm all sore and ate up with the feebles.
I'm glad you said that because I thought you went for gender reassignment surgery there for a minute, Todd. I was a little concerned. The way you come walking through that door.
I nanced in a little bit, I gotta admit.
I'm practicing my holding a purse pose.
Exactly. Yeah. Very good. That's great, Graham. I'll have to remember that one.
Sorry, Todd.
No, that's all right. But it leads us into an interesting topic of something else that I saw this week where you had UT define what toxic masculinity is.
So we're talking about our beloved University of Texas in Austin.
What a great university. You got to be proud to be able to send your kids there. You know what I mean? Cox and Glocks.
Yeah, there you go.
All that other fine institutions that they put out there.
It's funny. For years, I've never, and I will apologize to all my UT people out there because I do stick my foot in my mouth a lot. This is why I like A&M. Okay? I hate UT. I've always hated UT because I do not like liberal arts to that extent. I'm sorry.
Well, and it's been progressive. I mean, the more that time passes, the more that those people just pull as far to the weird as they can. I mean, it's like it's a race to be the weirdest person that they can be.
Well, they've taken that top or that moniker that Austin likes to throw around as keep Austin weird, and they brought it into the school.
Yeah,
they sure did, and I swear it's UCLA. It's not UT.
Well, it's a Me Too syndrome, in that Me Too. I want to be just like you. That's kind of the mentality. It's how California can we be, and I think they've really adopted it in this new policy that they've come out with their definition of what it means to be a toxic male and to have toxic male syndrome.
Yeah.
Was this in a class? So
it's a class. It's a curriculum item.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and they're also trying to write it. They have a psychology course that you can take there, and that's what it comes out of their psychology department there. And they are looking to implement this on UT campus, though. This is a social program that they're looking into. So if you're a UT male, this is some stuff to look for when you're on campus. Don't be this toxic male that they're trying
that would explain the current state of their football program.
Yeah. So
winning.
So really, they're sort of sandboxing this idea at UT. Then.
Exactly.
Sure
I think this is the test bed.
Okay.
This seems to be the test bed for it, in my opinion. It's been tried others. I mean, go look at California. We can point to that all day long. But I think this is they're trying to normalize it. This is the idea of if we can move it into Texas or some other state that's not California or New York or Oregon, then we can kind of normalize this.
We're going to go tackle our biggest hurdles.
Yeah, because God forbid we're not just masculine enough down here.
So why don't you unpack this for us here?
Well, what we're looking at is a definition of what it means to be a toxic male. It started out that they wanted to portray toxic masculinity in prisons. That's where this thing started to originally get traction. Is excuse me, they wanted to point to violence in prisons. They wanted to point to the gang culture in prisons. They wanted to point to emotional baggage that was brought into prison. In other words, you can't cry in prison, blah, blah, blah.
Like restraining, emotional regulation.
Right.
Yeah.
So they brought this into that atmosphere first, saying this is the most masculine of men in these prisons, and this is why they end up in the situation that they did. They wanted to tie the two together. I think that's why they started.
Well, because weakness will get you killed. Weakness
will
make you a victim of something. Is where they're going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But for the psychologist's viewpoint, what they're trying to say is how they ended up there in the first place was these toxic male traits that these prisoners all had before they got in there, and prison exacerbates that.
So the masculinity that these people in prison may or may not have had, or had, was the actual vehicle that placed them in prison.
Exactly. Okay. So this is where this story starts.
Wow. God, I got to call bullshit on that theory. God dang, dude. Not what you're saying.
I know.
What they're saying, that's a bunch of bullshit.
It's crazy.
Yeah, because they got there because they were doing bad things, people. They weren't.
So in typical liberal fashion, what this is the first trial balloon, right? They want to stick this out there first. And they want to point to something evil. We can all point at prisoners and say, oh, evil, bad, prisoners are terrible. No good can come out of prison, so this must be true. It's a way to take the formula, point to something and say, so this must be true because X, Y, and Z. They build their formula, therefore it must be true. Now they start walking it into other aspects of male life. This theory kind of started popping up real strong 10 to 15 years ago, and now we've walked it forward, and now it's masculinity in the workplace. Let's kind of soften it up in the workplace, because if you're competitive in the workplace, if you're an individual, it's, we need to soften that up, because that's toxic masculinity. You're hurting other people's feelings inside the workplace with this toxic masculinity that you're bringing into the workplace now. And they're wanting to make you almost essentially mentally divergent for being masculine. That's really what they're driving at. You need a pill to fix your masculinity.
So is that what? That's not what they're proposing, is it? They're trying to come up with some pharmaceutical.
Well, no, I don't think
solution.
that. But I think that's not necessarily what they're looking for. But that's the idea behind it. What I'm saying is, you're either going to get soft or we'll make you soft. That's kind of what the mentality is.
Well, no, I get it. I'm just sitting here shaking my head, like, what the fuck? I'm listening to this, and I'm reading some of this material. I'm like, okay, what they've done is they've identified less than a small 1-digit % of male behavior, and they're trying to roll it over the entire existence of the male gender.
Right.
Which is just absolutely typical of a liberal professor.
They want to walk it in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they're not, I guarantee they're not too far from pharmaceutical, because that's who owns all that shit. They do.
They would actually be somebody who would fund a study like that, because it's a revenue stream. But just hearing you talk about this topic and kind of break it down, it makes it sound like you're going to criminalize statements like, hey, don't man up, grow a pair, you run like a girl, or don't be a wuss, or like one of the things that I used to hear when I was a kid, and my aunt said it, but we never looked at it as toxic masculinity. Is, if somebody hurts you in some way, don't you dare let them see you cry.
Yes.
You freaking take that and you turn around and you go hurt them the way that they just hurt you.
Yeah.
It was about learning a lesson. We're going to all learn a lesson of how, and that's really the nature of that's actually human nature, and nature at its finest is exactly what you're describing.
Sure.
So what they're actually trying to do is undo natural order, if you really think about it.
Well, they've been after that for a long time. I mean, when you look at the feminist movement on its own, Bella Abzug and Gloria Steinman and all the things that they started back with women's lib back in the day. Mm-hmm. We want freedom, we want equality, we want all this. Hey, you know what? I agree. They should have freedom. They should have equality. I don't have anything against that. I think if you can do the job, you should get the same pay. But there are physical things that your gender will make you better at than others.
Sure.
Now, are there exceptional women out there? Absolutely. Athletes, they're smart, they're CEOs, they're I mean, to me, I don't see that barrier. I think that the cream will always rise to the top.
I am certain there are women out there that are stronger than me.
And
there's no doubt about it.
Yeah. That's one of the things I was going to bring up, is the way that they're approaching this is, okay, so yes, they're talking about this one aspect, masculinity. But the thing is that masculinity, you can you can take masculinity, and a female can have masculine traits, be very strong-willed, overbearing. I've had. You
have women boxers.
Yeah,
I mean, women MMA. It's
so
there.
It's
I wouldn't step in the ring with
now.
that.
I'm not gonna turn this into it's an attack on men, because how I'm gonna look at it is I'm gonna say, fuck you. If this is what it is, bring it. Okay,
right.
But this whole thing of telling men that they can't model behaviors and things that they've grown up with in their social environment, because a bunch of beta males had a freaking problem with.
Well, that's yeah. When you hold a door for somebody, this has always been a thing for me. My parents trained me that when you grew up, you were very respectful towards women. Okay, you opened the door for them. you helped them across a mud puddle or whatever it is, up a stair,
Right.
whatever it was, and it was always yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes or no sir. You were taught manners, and that's just manners. Now chivalry, on the other hand, is the thing to where you're basically going to come to the aid and rescue of somebody, typically a woman, because that's what that was, to stop them from some impending harm or danger. Now we're being told, no, we got it, guys. We can take care of this.
Sure.
We don't need your overinflated male.
But it's not just
magnetism
women
to
who
do
are
this.
saying it. You even got these. Some of these researchers were males themselves.
Well, I want to see them first. I want a DNA.
Well, that's what I. Well,
Yeah.
that's what I was telling you is when I went to go look and okay, yes, did I kind of profile them in a way? Yes, I went to go look at them to find out. Okay, who's making these statements? Okay, yeah, he looks effeminate. I'm sorry, that's my assessment. Am I certain that he is? No. I'm just I'm making statements.
I think you
like
can look a certain way, and I think you can still be masculine.
Yeah, you
know
know,
what I mean?
Yeah.
The thing is, though, okay, so masculinity, so everybody's defining it by big muscles and strong, robust action.
Right.
I gotta be honest with you. To me, masculinity is a character thing.
It's attitude.
Yes.
That's
It's
what I
attitude
think.
and character.
That's
It's
what
how
I
you
think.
treat. It's how
it
you
goes
treat people.
way beyond what somebody's physical appearance is.
I have friends that are like 5'6", 5'7", that live and act like they're 6'11".
Yes.
They're great people. So to me, it's like, look, not everybody can fit that mold. That's because that person earned that respect.
Mm-hmm.
They're the quiet guy in the back of the room that comes up big is always the one that's the one you're going to look to and say, wow, this guy, he is the man. So what I keep seeing in this whole tome here is that they just want to suppress aggression in general, and they want to dictate what your actions should be.
Right.
That's what this sounds like to me. And what they've done is they're backing it up with a bunch of bullshit science.
I agree with that, but I think it even goes even further than that. I think it's even more devious than that. I really think they're trying to model you as a worker bee. They really want you as
no doubt.
They really what this gets down to is just be a drone. That's what they want you to be. And we'll see that when we start exploring what they're calling toxic masculinity.
Yeah, because
when the definitions have gone way away from where it started, and that's again how they work.
Well, let's start with the first one called winning.
Right.
What do
you want to be admired,
respected, and are you competitive?
Right.
Well, that okay. If you
that
look
is
at
chemical
sports,
makeup of any male. I promise you. I don't care what it is. Whether
well, we're
it's
hunter gatherers. That's our job.
and it's in anything.
Yeah.
Scientists with each other are going to want to outsmart each other. I guarantee you. I've been in a room with eggheads. I'm a nerd. I grew up a nerd myself. Dude, we competed as nerds. Who was the nerdiest, smartest? That's what we were looking to do. Well, it might not have been masculine in the sense of we were out on the football field all the time.
Right.
But it was a competition. There was competition there. That is built into males.
You can't succeed. You can't succeed by consensus.
Exactly.
Because there's no idea. Nothing gets completed by consensus.
So before we get deep into this list, okay, first off, we're reading from a list that's called The Conformity to Masculine Norms Inventory. So you can look it up. It's a real thing with the psychology community. And we're just kind of breaking it down because we have.
We'll put the list on our
opinions.
Facebook page for you if you want to look at it.
Yeah, it's CMNI. So you can just look at CMNI. So it's funny. So you look at that whole thing. Now, one thing I will agree with. Let's talk about football, for example. Let's look at where football's turned.
Right.
Okay, so football. If you want to talk about prison mentality, let's look at the NBA and let's look at the NFL. You look at both of those. Look at the problems they're having there.
Well, and it's gone from a gentleman's sport
It
too.
has.
Which, if you look at that's male-instituted masculinity to have a gentleman's sport. So it's gone away from that.
It is, but it's gone from fair play and sportsmanship to individual effort.
Exactly.
And so individual effort turns into a brand.
Right.
So I have a brand. I am a CEO of my brand. And you end up finding out this guy has to have street cred now.
Right.
So they go into these clubs and they get into gunfights and they have multiple wives. You want to talk about prison mentality.
Yeah.
There it is right there. That, to me, I haven't watched an NFL game in a year, and I intend not to.
Yeah.
Because that turned into from one of the greatest sports in this country to one of the most corrupt sports in this country. And it's also the most politically challenged because the commissioner of the NFL is making political doctrine through this business medium. So when I look at that case they're trying to make, I'm going to ask who contributed to that.
Right.
Okay? The contribution of it is the lifestyle of the music they go by. They all have music. I'm a rap star. Okay? You don't see country music athletes coming out there having a problem these rap star guys have.
Right.
Okay? So, I'll just tell you right there, that's part of the problem.
Sure.
Is they have been introduced to a culture
that
is very destructive.
That leads to these types of studies where you end up with these sort of conclusions for them. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's what helps allow these people to jump to these bizarre conclusions.
Well, I think the one that ties to the competitive would be emotional control, the second one.
Absolutely.
So emotional control. Okay, so when you get up there and you tackle a guy and you hurt him, should you stand over him and do a dance over and say, "I got you, sucker," and then go, "Hey, yeah, I busted his ass, man. It was a hit he needed."
Yeah, and again that they use that to validate their point. It's because you've gone. I go back to what you said. You've taken the chivalry out of society, so you're left with it at its basis instinct, which allows these people.
Well, there's no honor. There's no honor anymore.
Exactly.
Against combatants. I mean, there's the combatants you would usually meet on a fair playing field, and the best man wins. Well, now everybody's trying to tilt that field.
Well, so their emotional control is. It's okay to be a man and cry. It's okay. You should be able to cry anytime you want. You should be able to express any feeling you want at any given moment. We're brought up to
they agree with.
Well, that's true that they agree.
Because if you show exuberance and victory,
that's true.
There's already kind of a matrix that they're following,
right?
And so, number one is this ideology that they're pushing now, or this thing that they're trying to drive towards. It's not going to affect anybody that's free thinking now. They're going to implant this idea in
future generations
and the students that are in class now.
Sure.
Maybe they'll take a portion of it. So this is a long game exercise.
The cycle is you go to school and you take this conditioning class. You get into the workforce and you're now a public relations person.
Right.
You're not expected to weave this propaganda into the fabric of the culture you're promoting.
You brought that up offline, which I thought was a really good
that's what they're doing. They're trying to bring this into where they can just subtly make these changes through public relations, marketing, human resources, all these things that competitiveness is what makes the business profitable. And competitiveness is what gets the ideas out there.
Right.
They want to lock on that, and they want to lock that down as well.
Well, one of the things that I'm going to point out when we look at this list, and it's what they're trying to do is destroy individualism and leadership.
Mm-hmm.
If you really look at what this list is talking about, emotional control can be a great thing. If in times of crisis, I want somebody that has emotional control.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. That's a leader. Somebody that is driven to win, that's a leader. That's a guy that's going to get out there and do what needs to be done if he's got the right motivation to do what needs to get the job done.
If there's a problem, the guy that can identify the problem but doesn't let the problem get in the way of solving it.
Right.
He can separate those two.
And we're talking two sides here, though. We're talking realistic versus what media portrays, because let's just take the wrestling world, for example. I won't identify any entity in case they get their ass burned. But I will tell you that there's an entity out there that revels in defeat and lamentation over the victor.
Sure.
You stand over, you take what's his, you stomp on him, and you make him feel miserable. That's not what we're talking about. That is bullshit.
Yeah.
But what you do is you go back and get a bunch of guys and you kick his ass.
Right.
Okay, that's how you fix that shit. You can't legislate that out of society. You just got to make sure guys like that are held in check.
Sure.
And that takes physical force, not a bunch of doctors sitting in a room saying, "Oh, let's play some music and talk."
Who are the complete opposite of the thing that they're preaching against.
Right.
So this is one of the newer ones that have popped up in this toxic male syndrome that we've been looking at. This is a newer philosophy that they've come out with, and it's the self-reliance aspect of toxic male masculinity. They don't want you to be self-reliant. Can you disconnect from others when necessary? Can you step back and let others lead? Again, this is making you into that model drone that they want you to be. We don't want you making decisions. We want to take decision-making capability away from you. Mm-hmm. We want you making the decisions we want you to make. It's a box. They are painting you. If you really look at where they're going with this, they want to put you in this box that says, we expect this output to come from you, whether out of your decisions that you're going to make.
So I'm trying to put this in classroom perspective. So I'm looking at this as, okay, so you have somebody in a classroom and you're teaching him these doctrines, and he's in a position that, say, he can stop something from happening.
Sure.
Does he sit there and just complete the task as given? Or does he raise the red flag? And I'm thinking of Snowden.
Sure.
I'm thinking of Snowden now in this example. Or the guy that knew that the Pinto would explode when you hit the rear end of the car.
Right. They don't want that guy.
They don't want that guy there. So there's a book out there called Good to Great, and everybody teaches business course off of it. I think his name's Jim Peters, I think is the guy's name. And so what they do is they tell you in an organizational structure that if you have anybody that raises questions or dissenters or don't go along with the company's norm, get rid of them. Suppress them, get rid of them, because those are the guys that are going to cost you. And so I look at this as a classroom application saying that you can't pass go until you do it this way.
Right.
You can't be anything until you pass this.
What I think is funny, just with all the articles that you posted up that, when I was trying to get prepped for this topic, is everything that's preached here and across all the articles is counter to like what a performance coach would tell you.
Sure.
Is, like, I'm a big fan of Billions, and so there's a performance coach in there that
Wendy Rhodes,
basically tells people, hey, do you want to eat or do you want to fucking starve?
Right.
And then she helps you figure out where the chink in your armor is, fix it, and then you go forward and you start.
We all grew up under the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes,
about self-reliance and security and all these other things, and this is just literally taking that pyramid and flipping it upside down, saying no, this shit all needs to fall out. It doesn't exist.
I just can't see in any realistic existence where this would be a desired goal.
So if you look at this is where I eventually want to get with this, and it's funny that you brought that up. Where this all leads us to, I think, is a governmental entity instituting socialism and eventually communism. I think that's what to me, that's what the desired goal is out of this.
See,
you have limousine liberals at the top that will have the life coaches that you're talking about. Those people are meant to be at the top, and they want everybody else down here working. Mm-hmm. That to me is the end goal.
So help me understand. I understand the socialism part of it. Help me understand the communism part of it, because the communism part pretty much is exploded. It's done. It doesn't work, and they've proven it doesn't work. Do you think they've redefined and replaced communism with something else?
I don't. I think they want to try it again. I think that they don't learn from their mistakes. I think if you really look, so let's take their examples. If you look at their model here, they don't allow for failure. If I remove winning, how do I get to winning? I fail a bunch before I win. So if I'm not trying to win, I'm never failing. I don't have the life experience necessary to learn and to better myself. You see what I'm saying? I think that's where I really think that's when I say the drone mentality, that's what they're trying to get you to. Is you're emotionally devoid. You're just this worker. I mean, in the end, this is long-term goal, but in the end, you're just this worker.
One of the knocks, I will say from my experience, one of the knocks on me is I don't get emotionally invested in things at work, in the sense of if something happens, I figure out a way to get around it. Mm-hmm. And if I can't remove that dude, I try to move him out of the way.
Okay.
And
it's just a strategy.
It's a strategy. And so that's exactly it. So I don't play a lot of the emotional games. Now, what I will say about society is they mimic art. For a long time, when Dallas and Dynasty and all that stuff was out there, in L.A. Law, everybody was trying to emulate what they saw on TV. Mm-hmm. And so the Office, the TV show Office, that all transcends into the workplace. You get those people that come into that workplace, and they start doing some of the things they see on TV. Some people find it very funny and very pop. It's funny, so you become popular. How do you fire the popular guy that's disrupting the class?
Right.
Okay. So now that transcends into another agenda, which would be gender equality, which I still think is going to be a problem no matter what they do. I mean, you'd have to fire everybody, send them to a camp, retrain them, and bring them back, which would require lobotomization.
Well, it's funny that you talk about the camp. There are already camps out there that men can attend to unlearn toxic masculinity.
So who made this decision for them to attend?
Probably a woman.
Their mother.
Yeah,
Not a knock on women, but there's probably a female out there that's got it in her head that this is how it needs to be.
So that already tells me that that's a beta male that said yes.
Well, I was going to say we already established that there's males part of
it. And you might have a beta male that came in and said, "Boy, I want you to go to this class."
I'm not bashing on, if somebody's trying to improve their relationship with their loved one. I'm not saying that as a bad thing, but to try to go to something that, as far as I'm concerned, it goes against the whole natural order of
it's
a
taking
male.
something. It's taking okay. So what you're talking about is caring emotions that a male can have, caring, being tender toward their wife, whatever that is. They take something that's natural like that and they make it perverse, and they try to add these characteristics to that. In other words, you must always be that way and never have any of these characteristics, because you'll be stuck in this world of toxic masculinity.
I don't want to get ahead of the list, but that's exactly where they're leading you to. All these things that they're describing first are very typical male emotional indicators of how a man gets through his life and through his day, and the things that we work for and live for and defend. So that's all the things they've described there. And so what it sounds like to me is they're just softening you up to get away from the typical male stereotype and start becoming more accepting to these alternate things.
And they're taking something that was... They're trying to man-make something that nature already freaking created.
Sure.
Well, let's take their next one. Yeah. Let's look at violence. Violence as a whole. Just because something is violent doesn't necessarily make it bad. And I'll explain what I mean by that. And this is, if you notice, their example is, can you be tough? Can you throw a punch? Well, I tell you what, if you're attacking my family, I need to become violent at that point. I don't have a recourse. So what they do is they want to stigmatize the whole idea of violence, and again, make you this passive, I need to call somebody else, I need somebody else to handle this problem. In other words, again, I'm not problem solving for myself. And I need somebody else to do it for me.
And these questions that trail off of these different
they make
different
no sense
items.
To me.
Well, keep up. These are psychologists who believe this already.
Right.
So in their mind,
we're in the true believers world when we're looking at
exactly.
this.
Yes.
I mean, when it says, "Can you be tough? Can you throw a punch?" I mean, that violence to me, I look at violence a completely different way.
These questions.
Go ahead. What do you think?
Well, I think that violence is when a person they impose their power over somebody in a very violent and destructive way.
It's a great definition.
And so, what I see that as, I also see that as somebody pushing an agenda.
Sure.
To me, that's a violence. That's a subtle violence in a way. Because they're saying basically...
I'll use one of their words, passive-aggressive.
Yeah, passive-aggressive. So I look at violence that way. So can you be tough? Well, you want somebody to be tough. But what do they mean by tough? I mean, I'm going to toughen up and suck it up. If I break down and cried every time somebody offended me, holy crap. I mean, it's just amazing. I'd be crying probably all the time. But
again, it goes back to their emotional control. They want you crying. They put cry closets in a class. Give me a freaking break, man.
I saw that the other day. Well, so I look at that. So can you throw a punch? What does that have to do with anything?
That's what I was wondering.
What is throwing a punch?
What if I'm a boxer?
Yeah.
Of course, in their world, they wouldn't have boxing.
So what's funny, the reason why...
that's true. That's a very good point.
So the reason why they put that there is they're framing this. So if you read this correctly... Can you throw a punch? The next thing is power over women.
Right. That's by design. I guarantee you.
Definitely. There's your psychologist at work right there.
That is exactly what that's about.
See, what they're trying to do is they're trying to subconsciously walk you through this progression of this list. This is why I questioned it from the very beginning.
Ken, that is the most devious thing they put in here, and you picked up on it. I did not pick that up.
So I'm looking through the pattern, their speech patterns here. And I'm looking through all of this.
Wait till you get to the last one.
I'm sure my brain will explode. So, can you handle a woman when a woman is taller, stronger, or smarter than you? Absolutely.
No problem. I think it's hot.
Yeah, I do too. I have no problem with that.
How I looked at it is like, okay, so I'll go back in just my employment history. Have I ever worked had a woman boss? Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
What
was that movie? What was the movie with Jack Nicholson when you got to wake up in the morning and salute her after you've slept?
Oh yeah, a few good men. Yeah, a few good men. Yeah.
But the way that they ask this, it's like you're too masculine if they make it almost impossible for you to have a woman boss. Which I was like,
sure,
these are ridiculous questions.
Right.
So you remember when we were all kids? and there was always that one girl that was probably taller than everybody else in the class. Did you ever play dodgeball with a girl like that?
Played football with her. She was always a wide receiver, dude. She could catch a pass like nobody's business.
Or kick your ass.
One of the two.
One of the two. We had a girl that failed 2 grades when I was in school. And so she was like 2 foot taller than everybody. And we used to have to play dodgeball in the playground.
Right.
You talk about learning to move and shuffle and get out of the way. That gal taught us how to move our feet because she would literally destroy you. And if you caught her ball, she would just come across the line and punch you.
Yeah.
So
take you out one way or the other.
So I look at that as, again, I'm going to go back to human behavior again. And you're only as good as your genes, you're only as good as your upbringing, and you're only as good as your internal control mechanism.
Right.
The rest of this is bullshit. This, to me, is the ranting of a pissed off group of people.
Right.
Yeah.
That just want to say, fuck the way you live.
Well, they're pissed off because they can't compete with you. When you really boil it down is, I can't compete with you, so fuck you, I'm changing the rules.
But there's a lot of people I can't compete with, too. I mean, there's always somebody bigger, stronger, smarter.
Yeah.
Always. That's
life.
nature.
Yeah, that's what I'm going back to, and that's part of your individual. That is learning to cope and grow. I mean, and that's they're taking it away is what they're trying to do.
It's very it's very aggravating when you see this kind of writing. So what I think is funny is the next one.
Yeah,
Playboy.
It ties in with the last one. You know,
these guys are just not that hard to figure out. For a bunch of smart people, guys, you really need to work on your cryptic writing because it sucks.
Does your self-esteem rest on success in pursuing sex?
When you're 14 to 21, it does.
It's called hormones.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Dude, they're out of control.
Are you kidding?
How are you gonna fix that? I mean, seriously, you've got so much testosterone pumping in your body.
Why would you grow a mullet and wear parachute pants and get up and sing songs if you weren't trying to get girls?
Exactly.
There's just no way that's going to go on like that. It's annoying.
I have no idea what they're trying to prove there.
Do you actively suppress traits that might make you seem feminine or non-heterosexual?
Again.
Here we go. So what does that have to do with being a playboy?
Yeah.
Nothing.
It has nothing to do with it. Why am I suppressing traits? Well, because I am heterosexual, but that's my preference. If your preference is the other way, that's your business.
Right.
That's not my business. I don't, you go do what you want to go do. Just don't stick it in my face 24/7 because I sure don't. Right. I don't go out there and do what I do. I will tell you one thing I found through this whole thing, reading through this, because I have several friends that are homosexual, and they just want to live a normal life.
Right.
95% of them do. And
they want to live their life based on the way they want to live. They would just want to have a job. They want to have a family.
That's it, dude.
They want to be able to retire. They want to be able to enjoy their lives.
And here's the strange thing is the rest of us want you to have that.
I do too.
I want you to have that.
I have no problem with that.
Do it, man.
It's that angry militant wing. And I'll tell you where it boils down to. It goes to the feminists and it goes to the transgenders.
Right.
Because that has been defined by some as a mental disease.
Right.
And the one thing that I will say about this whole mental disease thing is that it perpetuates into violence.
Right.
When they don't get their way. We watched a guy debate, I think it was Ben Shapiro on stage, and Ben Shapiro said he had mental disease. He goes, well, I'll get up and punch you in the face or kick your ass.
I remember that.
There's your default right there.
Yeah.
So I'm raging now. You're exhibiting the behavior that you're accusing the regular male to have.
Right.
I'm thinking if you got confused hormones, you're going to be more willing to rage than I would be.
You took on a little bit of masculinity there by making a statement like that.
So, I look at that. This is falling apart really quick for me. This list is literally falling apart.
It does if you really look at it from a realistic perspective. But the problem is you're going to have this taught in mainstream, and this will become 10 years down. We're laughing at it now.
Oh, yeah.
10 years down the road, this is going to be the norm.
Here's what's crazy is somebody outside of our circle of influence here looks at something like this as some sort of a utopian moment to strive towards.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And I'm like, are you crazy? This is like Logan's Run shit.
I was going to say Logan's Run, Demolition Man, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Demolition Man was like, are you kidding me?
He doesn't know how to use the shells.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Graham.
It's just I don't know, dude. This list is crazy.
So we get to, and this is why I drove to the point that I did. Get to this one right here. The primacy of work. Are you driven to succeed on the job? This is why I draw the conclusion that I do. Because it's toward the bottom of the list. And going to what you're talking about, Ken, is speech patterns.
Yeah.
This is what's important to them. Are you motivated by money? Are you driven to succeed? Well, yeah, aren't we all? I mean, that's the idea, is through success and through failure and success, eventual success. That's how we obtain what we obtain. They don't want you looking at life in that way. They just want you looking at, what is your position? We expect your position out of you. Do you prioritize financially supporting a family over, let's say, providing emotional support to members? No, I'm there to feed my family. That's my primary job.
No, but I see where this plays in play, where you're compelled to become a worker and you give up your family. There's a lot of people that do that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these executive-driven guys. I will tell you that their kids are the most screwed up kids of all of them.
Yeah,
because they're not parenting.
Right.
They have all this money, and these kids have all this access due to their parents.
Right.
You know, and so I really
they throw money at the problem. You know, parents throw money at the problem.
I do have sort of a relatable experience with that primacy of work, and when you posted this article and I got to this one, I actually had an experience. I was in a relationship where this did become sort of an issue.
Okay.
And it was presented in a way where I would probably almost say that the emotional support thing was the weapon that she was attacking me with. But and I'm looking at it from a rational standpoint. If, like, okay, way back when, this is like when we had pagers were the primary source of contact. So your pager went off, then you went to grab your phone to go call whoever it was.
Right. I remember those days.
So this whole thing of, why are you answering your pager? You're home, you're off work. Well, I was in an industry where I am on call. So when my pager goes off, it means that I fall under a schedule somewhere where it's appropriate for me to be contacted. Thusly, I respond. So we would go into these things where, why are you answering this thing? I'm like, okay, that's part of my job, but I'm trying to keep my apartment.
Right.
At the time I was living in. So I do this so I can keep paying rent.
Right.
This is why
dude, because I like you.
Yeah, your emotional piece in this doesn't play.
Right.
This is an attack on my income stream if I do not do what you want me to do. So,
no, it's funny because I look at the whole thing at work because I struggle with it because it's the job that most people don't have a problem with. It's the people they end up having to work for and work with that create the issues at the job. And so a lot of that's going to be because they carry over. It's like they can't be content who they are, so they take it out on the people they work with. Is really what it boils down to. And so you get a lot of this bad behavior at work. Where some of this does, I will give them this. Some of it does play into the workforce and bad behavior, but I'm going to relate it back to the culture that people surround themselves with. They watch shows on TV where adultery is a big thing.
Right.
So what do? They power makes them. They're the next J.R. Ewing or whatever. I know I'm talking an old TV show here,
right,
but a lot of people that live in the world know what Dallas is. So you're watching shows like that, and you see these things start to show up, and you say, okay, well, no wonder this asshole's. He thinks he's J.R. Ewing or something,
right?
Or he thinks he's somebody special in the workplace. I get that. I could see where that relates, but this has nothing to do with the fabric of the average working American.
No, they take the idea and they make it perverse. They pervert the idea of what you're trying to
I'll tell you why it is. They have a bitter resentment about losing that election back in 16.
Yeah,
a lot of that has a lot to do with this shit right here.
It's funny. It's just now all coming out.
It's funny, yeah. So when you check that list, that's exactly where it's at. It's sitting right in there saying, well, we got to have this in the workplace. We got to have, because they had 8 years of just run free in the woods.
Right.
And now that shit has been shut down, they're losing their minds.
So
they're coming up with crap like this.
Let's see what they did lastly here. They come in and they say, disdain for homosexuals. Now look at what they did. They want to throw that out there. Do you have disdain? Well, no, I don't. But here's what they define.
This is the sick part right here.
Right. This is what they define as having disdain for homosexuals. Do you avoid touching other men?
Well, I thought if I touch another person, I'm breaking the law.
Right.
I thought that was against the law.
So what is that? What does one have to do with the other?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Whether I have some sort of touch phobia or whatever it is has nothing to do with if I have disdain for homosexuals. But they want to tie those two together.
Sure.
Maybe I don't, for whatever reason. Maybe I'm a germaphobe, whatever. I don't want to shake hands What does that? What does one have to do with the other?
Right. That again for the 10th time. Dumb questions.
It's really dumb. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit.
So I get the feeling they had to have this article posted like yesterday,
Right.
And they started writing it the day before, and they just didn't think this shit through.
But in this list, the fact that you pointed out, probably. Okay, so Playboy, the Playboy term would be sort of that would be a play towards like a misogynistic sort of behavior.
Sure.
When you address the part about females and the way that they looked at it is, do you have a problem with working under one? And I'm like, you almost make it sound like that I'm subservient to them. No, they're my boss.
Yeah, I do a job for a paycheck.
And I don't walk around daily going, fuck, I hate life because my boss is a woman.
Right.
That doesn't even enter the equation. And then the final thing,
well, that's somebody that's emotionally unstable if you think about it.
And do you have a disdain, like they said, for homosexuals? No, I don't think about homosexuals at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
They're
either.
just people who are trying to live a life just like
the
I
rest
am.
of us.
That's it.
And it's funny how that goes because homosexuality is not new. It's been around for a long time.
For
Biblical,
eons.
really.
Way back there. Now, I will say this. There are some norms in the social world that acted out against that, but they acted out against all kinds of things.
Sure.
If you wore a certain color, if you talk to us a certain way, I mean, it's no different. I mean, to me, they're just exchanging a mechanism for a misguided cause is what they're doing now.
So how they wrap this heading up, and this is what I find the most interesting. This is all word placement, exactly like you pointed out, Ken. The last part of this is, do you feel threatened when other men display feminine traits? So they're trying to say, whatever anybody wants to do, you should just be accepting of it in your presence, whether it's on your time. In other words, you have to accept in your life whatever it is anybody else wants.
Okay, so I'm gonna be that guy. If I see some male out there that has effeminate traits, I'll probably giggle to myself. I'll own that, but that's just me, because I look at it in comparison to what I would do. There's no way that I could have those kind of. I would have that. I couldn't be girly. I mean,
I heard a great discussion about comedians the other day that might help you with this.
Okay.
They were talking about some of the comedy greats. They were talking about Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy. They're talking about the stuff they used to do in the 80s and 90s. And then you had the In Living Color, the Wayans brothers.
Yeah.
They did a thing called Men on Books, Men on Movie. It was, back then, nobody got butthurt.
Right.
It was funny.
Everybody was a target.
Straight, gay, preachers, businessmen.
If I can make something
president.
funny about a particular thing, I will.
I'm gonna point it out.
Now you can't.
Yeah.
Now you can't.
Well, you can about certain things. And if they think you're a troglodyte, they can point at you and call you a troglodyte and laugh at you.
Well, what I think is funny is this recent press secretary dinner they had, and that perverse rant that
Is this the one who went on about Sarah?
Yeah, she looked
Michelle
like
Wolf is who we're talking about.
Michelle looks like the child between what's his name, Carrot Top and Wasserman Schultz.
Yeah.
Did I get her name right this time?
You
Finally,
you nailed it.
It's all right. High fives all around the room. She looks like their love child. Okay, so she gets up there and she starts attacking the press secretary. Made fun of her weight.
Right.
I mean, she was
made fun of her looks, her weight.
Yeah.
Brutal. Yet that's the group of people
There's some
that are
Arkansas humor in there.
That's going to be that group of people that stand up and tell you that you can't say a joke.
Exactly.
Because one, they didn't write it, you didn't say it in the context that they put it.
And it's funny because there was a line in one of the articles that you posted, Todd, and for some reason this was an important aspect to point out. But they brought up, and Ken already mentioned this earlier, was the presidential elections, in their words, were a catalyst to unleash varying groups of prejudiced people.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a liberal-minded person who said this, and now we have this liberal lady who got in front of a mic and attacked somebody sitting at the dinner table, like right next to her.
Yeah.
And there was,
Brutalized her.
yeah.
And it was not, you can say that was meant to be funny all you want.
It wasn't.
It was a personal
No,
attack.
it was attack. It was an attack.
But she was big enough to take it. I'll give it to Sanders. She handled it well. She got out of the press. She got out of the dinner and said, "You know what? I'll pray for her."
But how I look at that is
that's some individualism.
Yeah.
you can't sit there and say that an election charged an alt-right community. It charged everybody.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, this lady still would have said what she said,
Absolutely.
no matter who won the election.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Well, I think
with
it drew the line in the sand for sure.
Oh, sure.
It clearly drew the line in the sand. I saw that happen, and I was watching, and I was like, oh, okay, so here it is. It's okay as long as we define it.
Right.
It's okay as long as we say it. You just sit there and listen to it and don't say a word.
Right.
That's what this is all about. All this is about that right there. I mean, if they can't get the laws passed that they want to get passed, they attack you through culture and they attack you through the workplace. They position themselves in all these companies, human resource, public relations, marketing, boards, consulting boards, all these things that affect the behavior. You know, OSHA used to be about your safety.
Right.
Human resource used to be about how you interact with your fellow employees and your benefits. That's not the case anymore. Human resource basically is about shaping behavior and tolerance.
Now, one last thing that I'll say about this is from a strategy standpoint, I would say that this is a smart strategy because it doesn't involve having to enact any laws or regulations or stand up some new organization.
They bypass the legal process completely.
But if I can train you through several generations to arrive at the conclusion I'm telling you now or the desired result, then I'm just going to change your behavior.
It comes down to, and you're spot on, it comes down to social engineering. That's what they're looking to do. All this, everything that we've talked about from here to Christmas is nothing but social engineering. It's an overall plan that they're enacting. This is part of it. Everything that we've talked about up until this point is part of it. They're looking to draw this plan all together and reel you in. And that's what it's designed to do.
And they're counting on the fact that the social group, the collective group, wants to look socially intellectual.
Yep.
They want to look compassionate and smart. They want to look like they are progressive as well. We are not what you're saying they are.
Right.
When they get behind closed doors, they all turn in who they are.
Oh, absolutely.
On all sides.
This comedian proves that. She just opened up in public. That's all.
Right. What about that chick from Smallville?
Yeah.
With the sex thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bohemian Grove, people laugh, but that place exists.
It does exist.
Okay, all these deviant, dark places where these arts come from.
Sure.
All these artists, all the artists that you see coming up with this progressive shit, they're on drugs themselves. And they go live in these deep, dark caverns, and they come out and they exhibit their guilt.
Yeah.
And they take their guilt on the masses.
And they put it on you.
They put it on me. They're shifting it.
That's right.
They're shifting that guilt away, and they feel like they're doing something better by coming at you and changing your behavior. Mm-hmm. When in fact it's theirs that they don't even touch.
That's right. Hey, you've come a long way, baby. Or have you?